What's up, family? The Lord has a message for you, and I pray this blesses somebody in these too. But you ever been babysitting a little kid, and the little kid just don't want to listen? Like you tell him, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And the first times he don't listen, the first few times he don't listen, and he do it anyways, like nothing happened. Like he might just do it, you be like, oh man, why you do that? Sit down. Right, get a little time out or whatever. And then say he start jumping on the couch or jumping on the bed, and you be like, stop doing that, you go fall. Or stop doing that, you go hurt yourself. And then eventually, when they start not listening enough, that one good time they go fall on his head, and then he's crying and crying and crying, and you gotta go be superhero and be like, oh, it's okay. And tell him, I told you not to do that. I told you to sit down. And that would have never happened if they would have just been obedient and listened. But God wants you today to be obedient and hear his voice and listen to his voice. Because as you're obedient, you're being obedient to God's plan. It's showing God that you have faith in his plan. So sometimes we be obedient or we have faith, but we don't tend to be obedient in that faith. We tend to say, yeah, God's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to do this for me, and have faith for it, but we don't listen when God tells us to read our Bible, or we don't listen when God tells us to pray, or we don't listen when God tells us to do something that he wants us to do. God wants us to have plans for the future. So he's doing things right now to plan you for that future and to set you up perfectly for that future. So when he tells you to do something, it might seem odd because he wants you to do it in a way that's going to help you in the future. So he calls you today to be obedient and listen to his word no matter how crazy it may seem. Even if that is getting up at 3 in the morning or 7 in the morning to make a video when you usually make one at 1 o'clock. But he wants you to get up, be obedient, and have faith. Because, oh man, I'm tired. Because being obedient is showing him how much you care. Put it that way. Being obedient is showing him how much you really want to grow and get to know him. That's another way of getting closer to God. Being obedient. Because everybody wonders how they hear God's voice, but then they have the thought about doing something that they don't usually do, and they ignore it and think it's just them. When you be obedient, you hear God's voice more and more and more. The more you listen, the more you hear it. Just like your parents. The more they talk to you, the more you hang around them, the more you get to know them. So if you wandering around a place with your parents and you get lost and they scream your name, you would know their voice. Or with your friends. If you go out somewhere with your friends and they scream your name, you know that's them because you know their voice. You hang around them all the time. You know what they talk like. You know what they sound like. You know their slang. You know what they like and what they don't like. And when you were a kid, when you used to get in trouble, you know how many chances your mom gave you until you got in trouble, that big trouble that you got into? You know how she disciplined you? You know how she didn't discipline you? How some things she didn't let you do and some things she let slide sometimes, but when you keep doing it, you got in trouble for it? You get to know the person by hanging around them, even if that is messing up. Just spending time with them. You get to know the likes, the don't likes, the do's and don'ts. So God wants you to get to know him and be obedient. So, I don't know who needed to hear this message, but I pray this blesses somebody it needs to. I love y'all, and I'll catch you on the next video.